You walk into a room and you feel it, the invisible hierarchy. Some speak, some follow, some dominate without lifting a finger. And then there's you, watching, wondering how some people can command attention, respect, even obedience, without ever having to demand it. They don't shout, they don't sell, they don't chase, they simply exist, and the world bends. We're taught that influence is loud, that it's about charisma, persuasion, extroversion. But that's not power. That's performance. Real power is quiet, unapologetic, invisible. It's the way someone looks at you without blinking, the way they walk slowly while everyone else rushes, the way their silence feels heavier than another man's speech. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. You don't need to fight to win. Influence, real influence, is never about noise. It's about control. And the most dangerous kind of control is the one no one sees coming. Because while others are speaking, you're observing. While others are pushing, you're positioning. While others are trying to be liked, you're becoming unforgettable. This isn't manipulation in the way you've been taught to fear it. It's not trickery. It's not deceit. It's awareness. It's mastery. It's understanding human behavior so deeply that your very presence becomes a force that turns heads, that shifts energy, that gets what it wants, not through demand, but through design. And the greatest part, you don't need to say a single word. This is how to influence anyone without speaking. Not with charm, not with wit, but with silence, presence, and precision. Let's begin. In a world addicted to speed and stimulation, there is something deeply unsettling, almost haunting, about the man who enters quietly, says nothing, and simply observes. We are conditioned to believe that influence belongs to the loud, the outspoken, the charismatic. But real power belongs to the one who controls their presence like a weapon and who speaks only when silence has already done most of the work. Most people can't bear a second of unacknowledged existence. They walk into rooms trying to impress. They smile too much, laugh too quickly, speak too eagerly. It's not conversation, it's desperation, a need to be seen, to be approved, to fill every empty space with sound, as if silence would expose the truth they're afraid to face, that they are unsure of themselves. But the man who understands the psychology of silence knows better. He knows that in a world where everyone is trying to be heard, the one who listens becomes the most powerful person in the room. When you are quiet, people project onto you. They invent reasons for your silence. They assume confidence. They sense composure. And most dangerously for them, they grow curious. Curiosity breeds attention, and attention is the gateway to influence. When you don't rush to fill the silence, when you let others speak first, something strange happens. They begin to over-explain. They reveal more than they intended. They try to impress you as if your silence were a test they are trying to pass. And you give them nothing. You hold your composure like a mirror, one that reflects their insecurities back at them. And in doing so, you subtly establish dominance without ever having to lift your voice. Silence is not emptiness. It is pressure. It creates an emotional vacuum that others instinctively try to fill. And once they are the ones dancing, once they are the ones trying to win you over, the balance of power shifts. You're not just present, you're magnetic. Because true presence isn't about being loud. It's about being felt. This doesn't mean you never speak, but it means you speak only when the moment demands it, when every word feels intentional. When your voice enters the silence like a drop of ink in still water. spreading slowly, purposefully, impossible to ignore. This kind of influence is not obvious. It's not theatrical, it's psychological, and it has been used throughout history by some of the most powerful minds in strategy and leadership. Sun Tzu in The Art of War warned that the greatest general is the one who waits, who conceals, who allows his opponent to move first. His victories are not declared, they are inevitable. He writes, "He who is prudent and lies in wait for an enemy who is not, will be victorious." In ancient China, silence was not passive. It was the mark of a mind too powerful to reveal itself. Centuries later, Robert Greene echoed this in the 48 Laws of Power, urging, always say less than necessary. Why? Because words limit. They give away too much. The silent man controls the narrative because he does not offer one. He forces others to create it for him. And by the time they think they figured him out, it's already too late. They've shown their cards while he hasn't even picked his up. So next time you enter a room, don't try to win it. Don't explain yourself. Don't speak to be accepted. Just wait. Let them feel the weight of your silence. And when the moment is right, speak not to impress, but to shift the ground they're standing on. They say actions speak louder than words, but even actions can be loud in the wrong way. The kind of influence that doesn't require speaking isn't about exaggerated movements or performative gestures. It's about presence, posture, precision, the small, controlled signals your body sends before your mouth ever opens. People notice what you do before they hear what you say. In fact, they feel you before they understand you. Your body speaks in subtle whispers that shape how others perceive you. Whether you're confident or uncertain, dominant or submissive, grounded or desperate, every glance, every step, every stillness, it's either reinforcing your influence or eroding it. Stand with your weight balanced, not stiff, not slouched, rooted. Let your shoulders fall back, not in pride, but in certainty. Look at people slowly. Don't dart your eyes like you're trying to escape the room. Hold eye contact like you already own the space. Speak with your eyes before your lips. There's a difference between looking and seeing. Most look to respond. Few look to study. And the man who studies is the man who controls. Your hands? Use them rarely. Don't fidget. Don't flail. Stillness is the body's version of confidence. It says, I am not in a rush. I am not nervous. I am not here to prove myself. Influence isn't about doing more. It's about needing less. The less you chase approval through movement, the more people are drawn into your orbit, trying to earn yours. And when you walk, walk like every step is deliberate, like your destination is not just a place, but a statement. People can sense when a man moves with intention versus when he's just reacting to life. The way you enter a room, the way you sit, the way you turn your head when someone speaks to you, it all sends a message. I am in control, even when I say nothing. This is what most don't understand. They try to influence by trying, but trying is felt. It smells like insecurity. Influence happens when you're not performing, when every inch of your body already believes it belongs. Take Napoleon Bonaparte. He wasn't tall, he wasn't loud. But when he entered a room, generals and kings turned their heads. He stood with a calm, calculating posture, often with one hand tucked, a gesture that showed he was relaxed in command. He didn't posture like a brute, nor fidget like a pleaser. He radiated a still confidence that unnerved even his enemies. And that presence, more than any speech, helped him control men who towered above him in size and title. Robert Greene wrote, "A man who cannot control his movements cannot control his life. The body is a reflection of the mind. And when your body speaks of calm strength, the world begins to listen without you having to utter a word. There is a kind of man who, no matter what you say to him, no matter what happens around him, does not flinch. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't scramble for control. He just looks at you, steady, still, unimpressed. And in that moment, he becomes more powerful than anyone else in the room. Because nothing is more terrifying than someone who refuses to react. Emotional detachment is not coldness. It is clarity. It is the ability to feel everything yet show nothing. To be moved by life, but not manipulated by it. When you master your emotions, when you refuse to let anger, anxiety, or insecurity dictate your behavior, you become impossible to provoke and therefore impossible to control. The average person is a puppet, yanked around by feelings they never learn to understand. One rude comment and they explode. One rejection and they spiral. One threat and they fold. They think emotion is honesty, but in reality, emotion is a script written by fear, and the one who follows it is already predictable. But when someone tries to insult you and you don't even blink, when they try to make you jealous and you respond with a subtle smile, when the room erupts in panic and you remain calm, that's when you own the narrative. People don't trust those who panic. They trust those who stay calm when everyone else is breaking. Emotional control is the most silent form of dominance. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need applause. It simply exists, and everyone around it recalibrates. You become the reference point, the grounded center, the unshakable axis around which chaos rotates. And most importantly, emotional detachment gives you vision. Because when you're not clouded by the fog of your own insecurity, you see people for who they are, not who you want them to be. You hear the words behind their words. You make decisions not from fear, but from insight. And that, more than anything, is what makes you influential. You act while others react. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, and the greatest Stoic philosopher, ruled not with emotion, but with reason. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When the empire trembled, he did not shout. When betrayal came, he did not beg. He remained composed because he knew that a man who cannot control himself will never be fit to control others. To influence without speaking is to lead through your silence, your stillness, and your refusal to be moved by petty forces. Because when you are unmoved, others begin to move around you, bending, shifting, adjusting, trying to decode what you already understand. And you watch, you wait, you smile, not out of joy, but because you already know how this ends. You've seen him before. He walks into a room and doesn't ask for attention, but he gets it. He doesn't raise his voice, doesn't dress to impress, doesn't smile too much or speak too loudly. He simply exists, fully, completely, and unapologetically. And somehow people notice, not because he tries, but because he doesn't. Not because he wants to be seen, but because he's already at peace if he isn't. This is the paradox of presence. The more you chase attention, the less you deserve it. But when you no longer need it, when you're no longer performing, attention arrives uninvited. Real presence is not something you project. It's something you embody. It's not what you say or wear or do. It's how fully you occupy your own skin. The man who commands attention without seeking it has already won an inner battle. He doesn't walk into a room wondering if people will like him. He walks in already knowing that their approval is irrelevant And that confidence, that calm detachment is magnetic because everyone else is trying, everyone else is performing. And when someone doesn't need to, we can't help but wonder why. There's no desperation in his eyes, no hunger to be liked, no tension in his body that says, please see me. Instead, he gives off the impression that he's already somewhere deeper, that his mind is occupied with something more meaningful than your opinion of him. And paradoxically, that's exactly what makes you want to know him more. This is the kind of man people watch when he speaks slowly, the kind of man people look at even when he's just standing still. His calmness is louder than noise. His confidence is heavier than bravado. He doesn't seek permission to exist. He just does. And that alone makes others curious, cautious, and compelled. You don't have to be flashy. You don't need to dominate the room. The man who owns the room is often the one who doesn't need to. Because presence is not about volume, it's about gravity. And gravity comes from knowing exactly who you are and being willing to walk away from anyone who doesn't. This is not something you fake. You don't pretend to be uninterested. You become uninterested in approval, in applause, in validation. You let your energy sink deeper into a place where nothing external can shake you. And then, ironically, the world starts to revolve around you. Niccolo Machiavelli, in The Prince, warned that the most dangerous leader is the one who reveals nothing and reacts to nothing. The people project greatness onto him, not because he announces it, but because he withholds it. His silence becomes a canvas. His restraint becomes a riddle, and his refusal to seek approval becomes the very reason he receives it. You don't need to fight to be noticed. You just need to become someone who no longer cares if you are. Because the moment you stop seeking their gaze is the moment they start giving it to you, wondering what you know that they don't. And you just keep moving, slow, calm, unbothered, letting your energy speak in the language the world has forgotten how to hear. People crave clarity. They want labels, certainty, definitions. They want to put you in a box so they can stop thinking. But influence begins when you deny them that comfort, when you refuse to be predictable, when you offer just enough to be interesting, and then disappear into ambiguity. Mystery is a form of silent power. It creates tension. It keeps people off balance. When you're mysterious, people lean in. They overthink. They obsess. They try to solve you like a puzzle, not realizing that the puzzle was designed to have no clear solution. The most dangerous mistake you can make is to be fully known. When people think they figured you out, they stop respecting you. They start making assumptions. And assumptions kill curiosity, and with it, influence. But when you're mysterious, they hesitate. They second guess. They project power onto you simply because they can't find its edges. A mysterious person is hard to attack. You can't criticize what you can't define. You can't predict what you don't understand. And in social dynamics, unpredictability is strength. It forces others to adapt while you remain fluid, elusive, untouched. So how do you become mysterious without trying too hard? You say less. You withhold opinions. You keep your past vague. You don't overshare every detail of your life like everyone else. You leave conversations open-ended. You let people wonder where you stand, what you think, and what you might do next. You become a question mark in a world addicted to exclamation points. And more than anything, you develop inner depth, real depth. You read, you think, you create. You cultivate an internal world so rich that it doesn't need to be broadcast. Mystery isn't an act. It's a reflection of someone who doesn't need the world to validate them. because they already have something better. Silence, solitude, and strength. People remember mystery. They forget those who explain themselves to death, who give away everything too easily. The one who influenced you most probably wasn't the loudest. It was the one you never fully understood, the one who left you thinking long after they left the room. Look at Leonardo da Vinci, an artist, a scientist, a philosopher, and a man whose journals remain full of cryptic diagrams and unfinished thoughts. He revealed pieces of himself through art, but never fully explained them. To this day, people debate what the Mona Lisa means, why she's smiling, what she's hiding. That's mystery, influence that lasts centuries. Machiavelli warned, "A prince should always be feared a little more than he is loved." And fear in this case is not terror. It's uncertainty. It's the fear of what lies beneath the surface, the fear of the unknown. He understood that power is often rooted in what you conceal, not what you show. So speak less, reveal slowly. Let others wonder, because the less they know, the more they'll imagine. And often what they imagine is more powerful than anything you could ever say. In every social interaction, there is a frame, a lens, a subtle agreement, spoken or unspoken, about who leads and who follows, who validates and who seeks validation, who sets the tone and who adapts to it. Most people never even notice the frame. They just walk into a room and accept whatever reality is handed to them. But the influential man knows better. He doesn't just live in the frame, he controls it. To control the frame is to shape how others interpret reality without ever having to say, "I'm in charge." It means you lead with your energy, your posture, your presence, not your voice. It means you carry yourself like the protagonist of every room you walk into, and people subconsciously adjust their role in your story. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who speak the most. They are the ones whose silence sets the emotional tone. If they're relaxed, others feel safe. If they're intense, others grow cautious. They don't demand attention. They define what matters. They create gravity, and others fall into orbit. Controlling the frame starts with certainty. People follow the one who seems to know where he's going. Even if they're not sure he's right, they would rather follow certainty than chaos. And when you walk into a situation with calm conviction, others instinctively defer to your frame, because most people are desperate for direction, not just in what to do, but in how to feel. You don't argue, you don't explain, you don't defend. You let your reality shape theirs. If someone insults you and you respond with laughter, you've reframed the insult as entertainment. If someone challenges you and you stay still, you've reframed the confrontation as irrelevant. You don't respond to their energy. You make them respond to yours. This is what makes frame control so powerful. It's silent dominance. You don't fight for the spotlight. You become the stage. Others perform, but you define the performance. You see this in master negotiators. They don't rush to fill silence. They don't flinch at offers. They sit back, calm, unbothered. And in doing so, they make the other party squirm. They create pressure without effort, tension without threat. And when the time comes to speak, they speak from a place of unshakable position, not reaction, not fear. Alexander the Great once met the philosopher Diogenes, who was sitting in the sun. Alexander approached him, the most powerful man in the known world, and asked, "Is there anything I can do for you?" Diogenes looked at him and said, "Yes, stand out of my sunlight." In that moment, Alexander held the empire, but Diogenes controlled the frame, Because true power isn't always about control over others. Sometimes it's about such complete control over yourself that even kings feel small in your presence. Robert Greene wrote, "When you are trying to impress people with words, the more you say, the more common you appear." Frame control is the opposite of common. It's uncommon confidence. It's not about proving yourself. It's about being so grounded that the world naturally orients around you. So when you enter the next room, don't ask yourself how to win them over. Ask yourself what kind of energy you want the room to have. Then be it, fully, silently, unshakably, and watch how others unconsciously follow your lead. All the strategies in the world, the silence, the posture, the mystery, the control, they only work if there's something real underneath, because true influence isn't about what you do in the moment. It's about who you are when no one is watching. And if you want to influence without saying a word, you must first become the kind of person whose very existence speaks louder than anyone else's voice. You can't fake presence. Not for long. You can't pretend to be calm when your soul is frantic. You can't mimic confidence if your life is built on fear. You can't project power if you live like a victim. Influence is not an act. It's an extension of identity. And the most magnetic people in history weren't influential because of what they said. They were influential because of what they were. You want to move people without speaking? Start by becoming someone who has lived through enough darkness to carry real light. Become someone who has suffered without collapsing. Someone who has failed without bitterness. Someone who has mastered his inner world so completely that nothing external can unseat him. That's what people feel. That's what they're drawn to. Not performance, not charm, but depth. The man who influences without words is not an actor. He is a force, because while others are spending their lives trying to be liked, he is building a life worth noticing. He reads, he trains, he meditates, he endures, he sharpens his mind, cleans his soul, strengthens his body, and aligns himself with a purpose greater than his ego. He becomes rare, and the world chases what is rare. In every room, there are two kinds of people: those who want attention and those who command respect. The first talks, the second listens, the first brags, the second builds, the first performs, the second radiates. The world may reward the loud in the short term, but in the long run, it bends to the weight of the grounded. You want to influence anyone without saying a word? Then walk through life like a man who has nothing to prove and everything to offer. Let your actions whisper. Let your discipline echo. Let your presence fill the silence. People will feel you before they hear you. They will notice you before they know you. And they will remember you long after you leave. Look at the great leaders, mystics, warriors, and thinkers throughout history. Their power was not in their volume, it was in their identity. Gandhi could silence thousands with a glance. Bruce Lee didn't need to fight to make a man submit. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire not through aggression, but through integrity, reason, and stillness. These men didn't learn influence, they became it. Robert Greene said, "Reputation is the cornerstone of power, but reputation begins with identity, not what people say about you, but what they feel when you enter a space. And the only way to shape that feeling is to shape yourself. So stop trying to impress. Stop trying to control. Stop trying to manipulate. Just become the person whose life is so refined, so purposeful, so composed, that influence happens whether you want it or not. And when you do, you won't need to speak, because by then, you will have already said everything." You don't need more words. You need more presence, more silence, more stillness. You don't need to raise your voice. You need to raise your standards. Because influence isn't something you chase. It's something you attract when you become undeniable. Look at the world. Listen to it. Everyone is shouting. Everyone is selling. Everyone is trying to be seen. But the man who walks slowly, speaks rarely, and lives deeply is the one the world watches. You don't need to manipulate. You don't need to pretend. You just need to commit to a life of discipline, to a mind forged in solitude, to a spirit too strong to break and too silent to beg. When you speak, let it be because silence has already said enough. When you act, let it be because stillness has already won. And when you walk into the next room, don't try to be anyone. Just arrive fully as yourself and watch the world rearrange itself to meet you. If this video reached a part of you that words usually don't, subscribe, because we're not here to entertain. We're here to wake up the part of you that already knows. You don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to become someone worth listening to.